Welcome to the Vantage Fit Corporate Wellness Podcast. This podcast is sponsored by Vantage Fit, the all-in-one AI-powered corporate wellness platform developed by Vantage Circle.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the Vantage Fit Corporate Wellness Podcast. I'm your host Alif, and in today's episode, we will talk about managing oneself with Dr. Bhaskar Bora. Dr. Bora started his career as a doctor and an entrepreneur in the year 2000. He has worked as a family practitioner since 2009, managing 5 practices in Greater London. He is also the owner of Samsara Restaurant and Bar in Sutton, London, and is the first Assamese to start a restaurant in London. Just when life seemed rosy and the sun was shining, he sustained a severe spinal cord injury in July 2019, following an operation which left him with paralysis of both legs, a non-functioning right hand, and a long stay in the hospital, eventually leading to a forced retirement from his medical career and a wheelchair in place of a sports car. He had to undergo multiple operations but is now permanently disabled. 2 months after his injury, he was also diagnosed with cancer of the thyroid, for which he needed further operations. But with a wheel of steel and a heart of gold, Dr. Bora could not afford to hang up his boots, so he had to relearn walking, writing, and many other daily activities. But most importantly, he had to retrain his mind to accept the new normal. Now he is a best-selling author, motivational speaker, and painter, and he still oversees his businesses with support from his family. Welcome to the show, Dr. Bora.
Oh, hi, Alif.
Hi.
How are you?
Good afternoon. I'm doing good. How are you?
Yes, I'm good.
Thank you so much for joining our podcast today and giving us our insights on managing oneself, the topic that we have chosen for this podcast.
It's my honor and privilege to be talking with you on this podcast, and I hope people who listen to it find it useful.
Yes, thank you so much. And before we begin, would you like to tell us how a typical day of work is like in your life?
Well, life has changed a bit since I had my spinal cord injury, but before that, practicing as a full-fledged doctor, running 5 practices in London, as well as a restaurant and a couple of other businesses. So it was full on. Yes. It was very busy, and I used to leave for work at 7 a.m. in the morning and sometimes not reach home till 1 a.m. in the morning. That, of course, wasn't a very healthy work balance. Mm-hmm. And it was only because of a very understanding wife and family that I could survive. But at the same time, I think it is because I worked hard during that time and accumulated a bit of wealth at that time. The fact that I have not been able to work for the last 3.5 years, I'm still surviving, or my family is able to still maintain a decent lifestyle. So, yeah, I was saying, I told about how my life was before the accident, but after the accident, I'm unfortunately not able to do a proper job. I'm on medical retirement from my medical practice, but I'm still keeping quite busy by working remotely, and I mentor quite a few startups and other people, and I'm setting up my own startup in India, which I'm remotely monitoring from the UK, the educational startup. And I'm also running the restaurant more or less remotely and being involved in some educational stuff. I'm also doing a course, a master's in psychology.
That's great.
All of that is keeping me quite busy, although it's a different type of work to what I was doing. And most importantly, I am quite involved with writing, and I do a lot of motivational speaking, and I get invited to various platforms to speak on different topics. So that's what keeps me busy now.
Your story is nothing short of exceptional, Bhaskar, and you are an inspiration to most of us. And obviously, we are honored to have you today with us. And definitely, we will talk more about your story and your book as well. You have written a book, The Second Chance of Life. So we'll get in detail about that later on in the podcast. So thank you once again, Bhaskar.
Thank you.
So you have mentioned, been entangled in a lot of issues in life, and not just, negative issues. You have also consciously been involved in many things, many ventures, many aspects of your life that you wish to, succeed in. And in such a scenario, right, the importance of managing yourself, right?
Yes.
So what would you say to our listeners, or why is it important to manage oneself?
You see, management per se means coming up with solutions. We all know that there are problems of whatever kind, and most of us are able to identify the problems. But when we talk about managers or management, it means that we try and come up with solutions to those problems, either by one person, as an individual, or as a team.
Yes.
Now, in order to be able to manage others and in order to be able to solve these problems, it is quite important that we manage ourselves first. And by managing ourselves, that means that we maintain certain disciplines, certain ethics, and we also have a certain attitude towards life and towards work and all, which will not only help in optimizing our productivity, but will also help in growing others along with yourself. So that's why managing oneself is very, very important. It is very important to know that there are certain things around us that we can't change, and there are certain things that we can change. Say, for example, I cannot control whether there is going to be an earthquake in the next moment. Or if I'm crossing the road, somebody is going to come and hit me. But what I can do is I can change my attitude towards the things around me, towards the people around me, or I can take certain precautions and plan certain things. So it is important that we focus our energy on managing those things that can be changed with a positive difference, than to focus our energy on negative things that we cannot even control, because that can only lead on to reduced productivity and even mental health issues like depression, frustration, and others.
Yes. You mentioned, the importance of managing yourself, especially two aspects of it, like depression and anxiety, those things. In two aspects, they are very important. That is physical and mental health. So people mostly, they lack the know-how, how to, go about their physical health, how to go about their mental health. And mental health is more of a, it is disregarded in many aspects. It is disregarded in many corners of the world, in many societies. But slowly and steadily, mental health is coming in the forefront, and people are recognizing the importance of mental health as well. Also, the interrelation between physical health and mental health is also very important, wouldn't you say?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So how would you say a person can manage their mental and physical health in today's world?
Right. First of all, it is very important to understand the importance of both of them. And just like our brain maintains our bodily functions, because that is the kind of control system. So similarly, mental health regulates our physical health as well. Unfortunately, all this time, and still, although there is some progress, there's still a lot of stigma about discussing about mental health, both in the society, and it is quite gender specific as well. Especially males find it quite difficult to talk about mental health because it is taken as a sign of weakness.
Yes.
And sometimes it is taken negatively by employers as well. It can affect your career development and sort of things. And then sometimes people get ridiculed if they talk about mental health issues. Thankfully, more and more people are beginning to understand about these things. And now, rather than saying that somebody is just retarded or somebody is just mad, those sort of things which used to be said before, now people are beginning to understand that there is actually a physiology, a psychology, and a pathology involved behind all these things. And for an employer, actually, it's very important to take good mental health care of their employees, because it leads to a huge improvement in efficiency and productivity.
Yes.
Now, in terms of physical health, again, it is very important, first of all, to understand that only if you have a good physical health, then you can have a good mental health. Because if you are very tired physically, if you are not well in yourself, if you're in some sort of pain, all of these things can lead to irritation. A constant and chronic pain can lead to depression and frustration, and again that can reduce productivity as well. So there are certain things which we can do. One of the important thing is to maintain a regular timing, which is not always possible, but as much as we can do. That is something I have learned in the West about being punctual, being able to take shut off or shut down from work when we can. Now that has those boundaries become blurred as you get more and more senior. Especially if you're an entrepreneur, then it becomes a 24/7 sort of job. So you cannot just shut down your computer and detach yourself. But it is important that you are able to kind of shut yourself down, even if for a couple of hours, to give yourself some rest, because the rest is as important as work. It is also important to try and compartmentalize your brain. That is something I used to do with myself, and I really found it useful. Just as an example, I would be able to compartmentalize my brain of being a doctor. So I'd only think about that part when I'm in a consulting room. But when I'm in the restaurant, I think about the restaurant, because at that point, there's no point in me thinking about the patient that I had seen during the day. Similarly, when I'm at home, I need to be able to focus on my family and not concentrate on the work part. So that is quite important. It's not as easy as it sounds, but it's not impossible. And it is about taking light exercises, making sure you surround yourself with positive people, making sure you have a good diet, making sure that even if you do drink socially and all, that you limit the amount of alcohol, and also that you don't wake up with a hangover in the morning, so you still wake up fresh.
Yes, indeed.
It is important with good quality. It is not necessarily just the hours of sleep, but it is important to have a good quality sleep. That, unfortunately, something I have not been very successful in doing, because I've always been a very light sleeper and cannot sleep for a long time. But maybe the hours and hours of night work that I've done as a part of my medical training, that has kind of conditioned me towards it. But different people have different thresholds. It is not that everybody needs 8 hours of sleep. So some can do less. But it is important to give the brain a bit of rest, because even scientifically it is proven that if the muscles tire and even if the brain tires, we have an increased production of lactic acid, which then cause muscle aches and all of that, and it reduces the productivity. So it's important to make sure that you do take care of your physical health. And as regarding the mental health, it is important to talk about it, to open about it. It may be to a trusted person, but if you bottle it up, then it makes it worse. And if you can't talk to anyone who may be as your line manager or something, then you talk to a friend. If you don't want to talk to a friend, there are lots of online counseling nowadays, telephone counseling, so you can talk to all of those in confidential terms as well. And if you can't find anyone to talk to, you can write it down. That's something I found very therapeutic, very cathartic. If you write it down, or you can just talk your feelings onto a dictaphone, and then you can erase it later on. But just venting out those things, giving words to those feelings, it helps a lot. Otherwise, it only gets worse. So and just like people get coughs and colds and injuries and things like that, so mental health is also a similar sort of thing. So just because somebody is suffering from some mental health issues does not mean that that person is to be excluded from the society.
Yes, 100%. And like you mentioned, there are very, these things are totally becoming the norm right now, talking to people, especially after the pandemic, the importance of just opening up to, your peers, your family members, or maybe even your friends, or even your pets.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, so just that, little thing, just that those little actions like make a lot of difference. And definitely in terms of physical health, like you mentioned, physical health is not possible without mental health, and mental health is not possible without physical health. So it is vice versa. And there is a catch too, Bhaskar. So how does a corporate employee who is, constantly busy, constantly on the move, or constantly bombarded with lots of stress and workplace demands, manage and maintain, their mental health and physical health, all the while maintaining a work-life balance? So how does a person do that?
Yes, it is indeed. It is indeed a big challenge, and if anything, the challenge is only getting worse. We cannot completely eradicate it, but there are certain things which we can do and try and minimize the stress and take care of yourself as well as take care of the company. And it has to be both ways. The employees have to look after the company, and the employers have to look after the employee as well to make a win-win situation. Now, how can a corporate employee look after himself? Now, there is a very good Harvard business review paper where it says, "Who holds the monkey?" I don't know if you've read that one. So it basically tells you about, if you consider every problem as a monkey, then it is like if you meet your subordinate or your colleague and somebody comes to you with your problem and you try and take on the problem and you try to solve it, then it is like you've taken that monkey from that person's back onto yours.
All right.
Which is, of course, you're trying to help your colleague or your peer or your subordinate, then that's fine. But if it happens with every person, there will come a point when you have 5-6 monkeys on your back and you can't hold it anymore. So as a result of which, your own monkey suffers.
Yes.
Right? So it is about learning to, if somebody gives you a monkey, then you nurture and help that monkey, but you give that monkey back to the person who gave it to you in the first place. I'm just using the monkey as a metaphor. Yeah, but it is, Who Holds the Monkey is a very, very popular paper that I would suggest for everyone to read. And in general, I would suggest reading Harvard Business Review papers. There are lots of things there. Now, the second thing is also to be less reactive, but more proactive. Now, one of the tendencies we have is to check the email first thing in the morning, or as soon as the email comes, and then you send the reply back and you think later. And then the more you start replying to emails, the more emails come, or sometimes you might write something which may have a negative effect, and that causes more trouble, more stress. So if you have a sort of routine that, I will make sure that I will answer my emails within this period of time. There has to be set standards. Of course, you cannot keep an important email left for 48 hours.
Yes.
But most of the time, if it's an email, it can be left for a couple of hours. If it is something more important than that, then you should ask that person to call you rather than email you. So setting some boundaries is really important as well. Saying that when I'm in a meeting, I will actually focus on a meeting and not be checking my emails in between the meeting. Because that way I'm not doing justice to my emails. I'm not just doing justice to the meeting that I'm attending. So having those sort of self-discipline is really important. And as I said, you need to make sure that you learn to delegate as well. So, and that is more important as you become more and more senior. That doesn't mean that you don't look after the problem at all. But if someone is paid, say for example, someone is paid a 5 lakh package, and that person has got 3-4 people reporting to him. And if that person ends up writing clerical reports, then that's not a good use of his time. Neither is a good use of his managerial resources, right? So it is important to be able to delegate that. Yes, I would give this to my juniors or my subordinates to do this job, but yes, I will oversee it and make sure that they get reported to me at the within a stipulated period of time, and I'll do the quality assurance check. So those sort of things are really, really important. But many people are not able to do that for 2 reasons. One is because they don't want to give up the control. Because control is a big issue. If you talk to anyone, they will say, no, I don't have control issues. But
Yes.
we all have control issues. Yeah. And the second thing is the ego. Because they think if I am going to delegate everything or train up my subordinates, then there might come a time when they might take my place. I may not be needed anymore.
Yes.
Now that sort of insecurity leads on to ego issues. So it is very important to think that I have done my job. I have climbed up that bit of the ladder. Now my time is to go on to the next bit of leadership. So let my subordinate and or peer grow up to that. So why not help that person and in the process reduce my own work stress, help the other person grow, and have a win-win situation for the whole company. Yeah. So I hope I'm making sense of what I'm
Yes, most
saying.
definitely. Yes.
So it is corporate life is very stressful, very hectic, and so is the entrepreneur life as well, because then again you are working for yourself. So self-discipline is even more important. Nobody is going to check as an entrepreneur if you're the boss. Nobody is going to check when you have clocked in and when you have clocked out. But you yourself have to make sure that you are clocking in and out at the right time, because otherwise it's your business that's going to suffer. So
Yes.
it is important to have those boundaries. It is important to one thing I always practiced and I still practice now is if any opportunity knocks on the door or if somebody asks for any sort of help, I don't say no at the first instance. I always make it a point to try and listen to the opportunity and then try and analyze it. And then if it works out, I'll say yes. If it doesn't work out, I'll say no. So saying no is an art as well. But listening to the opportunity, because if you close the door at the first instance, you'll not have the opportunity come back to you again. But if you are at least available for people to approach you with an opportunity, you should be there as much as possible. But learning to say no in a very constructive way is also good, because otherwise, if you carry on taking work after work after work, especially other people's work, then at some point your own work will suffer, your own health will suffer, and then people will start giving bad remarks, or you will end up with a bad appraisal. So it's very important to know what your boundaries are. It's important to know what our strengths are, as much as it is important to know that what our limitations are. So working within a team, working within certain parameters with discipline, working within our boundaries, being able to delegate to others and helping them grow, being able to compartmentalize your brain, as I mentioned before. So and be less reactive, but more proactive in when you're going to send a reply to an email, when you're going to answer your phone, those sort of things will definitely help reduce corporate employee stress.
Yes. Thank you so much for such, amazing insight, Bhaskar. I was just thinking about that thing, in today's, the hectic lifestyle that we have, just being, a part of the entire organization, that just skips from our mind, being healthy in terms of our physicality, in terms of mentality. Those are something, that we tend to focus on. But in the long run, we tend to lose the bigger picture, lose the sight of the bigger picture, that we are a part of a team or a community that, needs to collaborate, that needs to foster growth, that needs to, learn to share and learn to, offload and onload stress, as you mentioned.
Absolutely. Yes.
Be more proactive than reactive, right?
Absolutely. Yes. You see, we at some point, especially when you're loyal to your company, loyal to your work, there comes a point when you start thinking, oh, if I don't do it, then work will suffer.
Yes.
There's nobody else going to do it. So we start building up a sort of egoist attitude as well without knowing. For example, when I was practicing as a doctor, I was seeing 55 patients as an average, on an average every single day.
Yeah.
And when I wasn't able to see all the 55, then or for some other reason I had to attend a meeting or something, I used to feel very guilty that if I don't do it, that means my patient won't get seen,
Yeah.
or I have not completed my day's work.
Mm.
But you see, I ended up becoming a patient myself, and the whole life changed. But still, work carried on as normal. So similarly, even we may all think that if I don't do it, the work won't get done. But actually, in the magnanimity of the world, even if you and I are not there, even if you and I are not alive tomorrow, the world will still carry on,
Yes.
isn't it? So
Yes.
it is very, very important to understand that we are just a part of the bigger picture. We are just a part of a team. So I can't do everything myself. I will need help. It is important to understand when I need help. Well, otherwise, I'm actually harming not only myself, I'm harming others as well by undermining their efforts by not being a part of the team.
Yes. Yes. And being a part of the bigger picture, that correlates to our overall wellness as well, because it is right now being touted as one of the most important aspects of wellness, that is spiritual wellness. So being spiritually, involved, it is not just about having a religion, it's not just about having a faith, but it is about having, the contentment of, like adding to something in the grand scheme of things. It is about being cared for. It is about taken care of. It is about caring for someone, and it is surely becoming one of the most hot topics of the year. And what is your take on that?
You see, when people talk about spirituality, many people think it is just a cliche, right? So what is this spirituality? Spirituality doesn't mean that you are wearing a saffron robe and sitting in the middle of the jungle or on the Himalaya, giving up your family and career and everything. No. Spirituality means, as you say, the contentment. It is about having the deeper thoughts, the deeper understanding of what it is all about. And it also means having a sort of emotional evolution, that you rise above and beyond the mundane activities of daily life, right? It is about finding a purpose of your existence as to why am I here? What is my role? It doesn't mean that I will not earn money from tomorrow. I still have to earn, because that's a part of my existence. I still have to make sure that I earn and I provide for my family. But if I do it in an ethical way, right? So that is spirituality. If I make sure that whatever I do is not just for the profit, but it is also for the people and the planet, that is also a form of spirituality. So if I'm able to reduce my wants and just keep myself to the needs, that is also a form of enhancement, right? So it is not about why do I need to have a crocodile skin handbag, for example? Why do I need a snake skin something? That's a want, right? But in the process, I'm harming the planet, I'm harming the animal kingdom and all sorts of things. But if I can content myself with something which will do the thing, but will still complete the purpose, then I know I am happy, the other person is happy, it is reduce the carbon footprint. That is also a form of spirituality.
Yes.
Now, one thing I say and I try and practice is that if you get to do what you love, then it's brilliant. You then a very, very lucky person.
Yes.
Say, for example, somebody loves painting and they have become a professional painter. Somebody loves singing, they have become a professional singer. But that doesn't happen to everyone.
Yes.
So what is more important is to love what you do. It's not about getting to do what you love. It is about loving what you get to do. That is also spirituality, and that then fills you up with blissfulness, because then it does not remain work. Then it becomes your vocation, right?
Yes.
So, for example, I will just give you a small example. There were three people on the street. They were all three were breaking stones. Okay, just like you used to see in the past that they were with a small hammer, they were breaking stones. So another person was passing by and he asked the first person, "What are you doing?" And the answer was, "Oh, I don't know. What am I doing? I'm just being asked to bloody break these stones, and I'm doing this. I'm breaking the stones. I have hurt my finger. There's nothing to do. I'm not earning enough. This, that." So he just moaned and moaned and moaned. Yeah? And the person, the passerby, walked on to the next person, and he asked him, "What are you doing?" He said, "I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm breaking the stones, but at least I'm happy it's feeding my family."
Yeah.
So he was much more positive about it. Third person, he went to the third person and he asked, "So what are you doing?" He said, "I'm doing a fantastic job. I am breaking these stones. These stones will become a part of a community hospital, and that hospital is going to treat all our people. We'll have the first hospital in this village, and I am so glad I'm contributing towards it." So you see, three people are doing the same job, but they have got a completely different perspective of life and towards the work. For the first person, he is doing it. He'll still earn the same amount of money, but he is so full of grief, he's never going to enjoy it.
Yes.
The second person is doing it as a part of his mechanical thing, that he just has to do it because he's earning some money and is feeding his family, but he still has a bit of satisfaction.
Yes.
The third person has turned the same small petty job or so-called petty job into something that he really loves, because he has understood the bigger picture, and he is so grateful that he's going to be a part of that hospital that's going to treat his children, his family, and his community. So it is about perspective. So that third person, although he may still be a stone breaker, but he is much more spiritual and holistic than many other people who may have earned lots of degrees.
Yes.
So it is about the perspective that we bring about in life, and how we interpret them, and how we use them in our lives.
Yes, that is completely true. The perspective, the positivity, that needs to be there. And I hope our listeners are very excited to know about your book. I have seen that you have written a book called The Second Chance in Life that is also rated 5 stars. So would you like to tell us a bit more about your book, and also including your tips that, life tips for our listeners?
So basically, when I had the spinal cord injury and then I was diagnosed with cancer and everything, I had to go for repeated operations, and I was in the hospital mostly by myself for quite long periods of time.
Okay.
That gave me time for a lot of reflection. And as you would expect, I went through all the grief reaction, the anger, frustration, disgust about feeling, why was it only me that has been affected, that sort of thing. So, but gradually, I think I became more and more reflective. And I thought that just, as I was saying to you earlier, it is useful to put your thoughts on paper. And I started writing and sharing some bits and pieces on Facebook and some on LinkedIn. Yeah, and just small chapters. I thought small bits like say, for example, how is it when you suddenly turn disabled? How is it when you can't do things anymore? But I tried to put a positive twist to it, because the world only recognizes success, right? Nobody likes failures. Everybody wants to know about success stories, about successes and all. So somehow, when I wrote these things on Facebook, especially on lots of doctors groups and patient groups and things like that, I started getting lots of feedback. I mean, there were like 300, 400 comments in everything that I put in. And that made me believe that there might be some sort of strength in my words. And then I started getting some very nice, very strange feedback, not just on Facebook, but on Messenger and things like that as well.
Yes.
And I remember one day as I had just landed back in Heathrow
Mm.
after 2 months in Kerala, where I was admitted for Ayurvedic rehabilitation.
Mm.
And then there was this girl, was a lady doctor. I've never met her. I've never known her, but she somehow read one of my pieces,
Mm.
and then she said like, yesterday I took part in the London Marathon. The
Mm.
London Marathon is a very famous event.
Yes.
Yesterday I took part in the marathon, and just when there were about 3 miles to go, I just wanted to give up because my body won't take it anymore. Well, at that point, I remembered your writing, and
Mm.
there you are. You can't even walk, and I have been given the privilege to run, and I'm giving up. So I tried my best, and I eventually completed the marathon. So I want to dedicate my medal to you.
Mm.
And it was so touching, so moving that my words has had such a big impact on her.
Yes.
So maybe I should try writing more. And also it was during when I was admitted to the hospital that I finished my MBA,
Mm.
because I needed to do something to keep myself busy. I just finished a 15,000 word dissertation. So thinking about writing a book which would be at least 45,000, 50,000 words, I mean, it just sounded impossible. But when people said you should write more, you should really not try and heal yourself, but heal others as well. So
Mm.
then I started writing. I was through LinkedIn. I met some people, and I was assigned an editor for the book. So she helped me in kind of saying which chapter should go where. So and as I was writing, so she helped me with the editing of the book as well. And what seemed like an impossible task, actually within about 3.5 months or so, the whole book was finished.
Mm.
Because I was just writing about myself, and me, especially being from a science background, I was not too worried about grammar and
Mm.
literature and all of that. So I just kept writing.
Yes.
So I wrote, and then we designed the cover page, and then basically we released it on Amazon. And I saw that within a short period of time, I received very good feedback. I tried to do some organic marketing, and in fact, initially when the book started showing some promise, I had launched my own website as well and started getting quite a lot of visitors.
Mm.
I got a bit greedy at that time, and I thought maybe I should really put some PR into it,
Yeah.
and I was offered, but Facebook only one guy came and offered to do PR. So I actually got a bit scammed,
Mm.
trying to make it popular too soon. So at that point, I thought, no, let it take its own course.
Yeah.
So I will just continue writing, and I will just do whatever I can for the book. And
Mm.
then when I stopped chasing it, then the book started doing even better.
Yeah.
And then by grace of God, it became a bestseller in 6 categories on Amazon in various countries, including in the UK.
Mm.
And it received a huge amount of feedback. And from that book, I started getting invitations for various talks on podcast, on remotely, in
Mm.
person, all of that. And in fact, this time I'm in India primarily for those talks. I have done 6 talks in different universities and different platforms.
Mm.
It's a blessing to be talking with you today as well, through which many people will hear about me. And basically, I'm just trying to see if I can not just heal myself, but heal some other people along the way, and also create some awareness about disability and about cancer, and with the message that just becoming disabled doesn't mean that that's the end of your life. So and also that whatever the universe throws at us, we cannot control, but how we react to those curveballs
Yeah.
define who we are. Yeah. So that was primarily about the book, and this book has now been translated into Assamese and was released during the Guwahati Book Fair. and I'm told that about 500 copies got sold within the first 2 weeks. Now the second reprint, second edition has come in, and it's done very well in Corbetta Book Fair, and from tomorrow it's going to be in the Assam Sahitya Sabha, and the feedback has been really, really incredible. So I am very, very blessed about that. In terms of some tips towards life, I'm not sure if I'm wise enough to give tips to anyone, but I can share some things that I am trying to do myself and which I think has helped me, and therefore I hope will help others as well. So it's things like, yesterday is a history now, isn't it? Yesterday was a history. Tomorrow is just an imagination. So, but we spend so much time with what happened yesterday and what's going to happen tomorrow that we forget what is in the present and which is the only reality, right? So you don't know what happens the moment you go out of the room after this meeting finishes. I don't know either.
Yes.
But we should try to do the best that we can of this moment. Similarly, we believe in heaven and hell, and we try to do things which will take us to heaven. But why don't we try and make this to a heaven that we haven't seen or really know about? But why don't we try and make this life of this earth as heavenly as possible?
Yes.
So, and also, when there is a storm, if you look at an eagle actually tries to fly higher in a storm so that you can rise above the turbulence.
Yes.
But if you look at a dormouse or something, it'll hide in the corner till the storm passes away. And we all have our own storms. We all have our own battles to fight. Some may be seen, some may be unseen. But we all are fighting individual battles. I don't know exactly what battles you are fighting. You do not know me or the next person to you.
Yes.
So it is about respecting that the other person also has some battle. But it is also about knowing that I am not the only person who is fighting a battle. It is about the choice of becoming the dormouse or the eagle. Yeah.
Yes.
So I think those are quite important things. As I mentioned about trying to be blissful and trying to find something positive in what we have. It doesn't mean that you don't think anything about the future at all. It is important to plan for the future, but it is important to enjoy the moment that we are living in, and we can do so by not being difficult to others. We don't have to step on somebody else's back to rise to the top. This world has got enough opportunities, and this world has got enough scope for that person to develop and for me to develop as well. So our fight should not be against others. Our fight should be with ourselves in how we try to make ourselves a better person today than what I was yesterday. If we can do that, that is about managing ourselves. That is about winning our own battle. And if possible, try to help others in winning their battle as well. And if we don't chase the money, if we don't chase fame, they will come by itself. We just need to carry on doing what we are doing and try to be the best and do the best.
Yes. Thank you so much, Bhaskar. What can I say? It has been nothing short of, therapeutic for me. It has been very inspirational for me as well. I'm sure our listeners will have an amazing time listening to your podcast, your view of life, your view on many things that we talked about. It has been an absolute honor for you to have joined us today. And thank you so much, Bhaskar. Have a great day. And lastly, congratulations on the success of your book. I am sure you will face bigger success, and many people will start learning about, the importance of managing themselves, the awareness of cancer, and also, what needs to be done when such a big mountain falls over your shoulders.
Sometimes
Yes.
sometimes it needs a calamity to find out how resilient you are.
Yes.
So it is actually my second chance in life. So I'm trying to do the best I can. The book is available on the English version of the book is available on Amazon and Flipkart as of now.
Mhm.
But Aardbach Publishers, they are republishing the book, so it should be available in the stores very soon. And the Assamese one is already available on Aardbach Publishing website, and it will be available in major bookshops. So yeah, please do read the book. Let me know if it helps, if I'm able to touch your heart. And thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for getting me on this podcast. It's been a real pleasure. You've been a great host.
Thank you so much, Bhaskar.
Wonderful. That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Alif.
Thanks for listening to Vantage Fit Corporate Wellness Podcast. Please do subscribe to Vantage Fit Corporate Wellness Podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and our YouTube channel for new episodes.